Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our March 1st, 2022 Committee of the Whole meeting. Mayor Irvin is unable to be here in person this evening, so he and Councillor Burtis are joining us by Zoom tonight. Thank you guys for taking the time during your vacay. So I guess we can just get started. Can we get a motion to adopt the agenda?
I will motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll second it.
Thank you. The draft minutes from the regular meeting of February 15th.
You need an
All in favor
All in favor, yeah.
of the agenda. Thank you. Sorry. So we'll move on to the minutes from the regular meeting from February 15th.
I'll make a motion to adopt those minutes.
I'll second that.
Comments?
There was a couple of things that we corrected, but we already corrected them.
Can we hear them, please?
So there was a place where it was incorrectly stated that Chris wasn't at the meeting, but he somehow managed to second something. And so, yeah, we corrected
so
that.
Do you have a motion number for that?
Oh, I saw you the motion number, sorry.
I can for the record, your worship. So motion 022-04-29. It was moved by Councillor Burtis and seconded by Councillor Paquette instead of as it was mentioned as moved by Slager and Irvin. So
Okay.
We just corrected.
Anything else?
No.
All in favor of the minutes as amended?
Yeah.
Great. So moving on to the open payables, looking for a motion to pay the open payables in the amount of $162,796.79.
I'll make a motion that we pay the payables and the amount of $162,796.79.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Slager and Mayor Irvin. Any comments?
What's this Yukon Supply 60263
263.
for 20,815?
So that is the reason that invoice is so big. That is the purchase of capital items like the new sewer pipe and stuff that was in last year's capital budget. That stuff, those parts, supplies were ordered in back in September, October, and they were just delivered in January, February. So hence the reason that the bill is that high.
What are those sewer supplies for? Like what?
Water and sewer lines, replacement lines.
Oh, replacement lines. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a question, sorry. Check number 60265.
That is the final month's rent of the hole for the landfill while we were waiting when the motor was being rebuilt. So that's the last bill on that rental.
Okay, thank you.
The propane bills that we have,
Yes.
which one, which one of our buildings or properties or is it like $2,500 to fill up what are those 250 gallon?
No, those would be these ones. These would be five. Some of them are 500s, but these bills, Councillor Slager, are for multiple of the big tanks, and some are are residential. So if you give me a second, I can actually break them down for you.
I'm just wondering which two buildings are always eating up, $2,600 in propane.
Well, water treatment plant.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
The water treatment plant is the big one because rec center is on district heat. So there's we have numerous buildings that are actually propane, but a lot of those are staff under the collective agreement.
Yeah.
So, but I do have a list here. Bear with me.
And then check 60253.
For $4,200.
Yeah,
That would be not, I can't remember offhand which one that is, but that is, I believe, a steaming bill.
gotcha. And then there was another instance I was looking up here. I know it just says RRSP.
Yep.
And that's like, is that like the RSP matching?
Yes.
Thing that we do with our management group?
No, that's employees.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of miss the days when we used to have a list of who, you know, it made it more clear, when we had like the payroll as well as the open payables, but. Anyway, so yeah, just wondering about that, that's all.
Okay.
And then we have CIBC down further, 27, 29.
Yeah, and I believe that one would be, I provided you guys with the Visa one, didn't I?
Mhm.
Is it the same one as the Visa?
I believe that's the Visa one, yes it is.
2790.
Yeah, it is. And I'm assuming the Yukon University is like water treatment courses that we have in place taking or something like that.
That is correct. Those are training programs through the Yukon College.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you. So all in favor of the open payables?
yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, moving on, we do have a delegation with us this evening. So I believe we have in the gallery Tessa Higney.
Hi, I am here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Thanks. I guess I first just want to thanks for agreeing to see our delegation again. I know that it's kind of a trying time in the world in recent days, and there's a lot of other concerns present in the world, but I appreciate being included in the agenda. So our purpose is simply to revisit some concerns that were introduced in our previous session at Town Council. With the easing of some restrictions in the Yukon and many other parts of Canada, we're here to encourage our representatives to keep pushing our government to regain some of our civil liberties and to represent the town of Watson Lake from all perspectives. We feel that our opinions have not been represented by our town council and that we need more information on how our community will be proceeding into these new times. In the past months, I personally have seen the number of citizens here in Watson Lake who openly oppose mandates and other pandemic-related restrictions increase consistently. We see new faces coming out to participate in drive-by rallies and the peaceful protests that are organized each weekend. And we continue to share dialogue with concerned citizens who are struggling with the oppressive and challenging realities that our government has forced us into. More recently, some members of our community who I can't confirm whether they support or oppose mandates and restrictions. Openly, sorry, we have a small member joining us this evening. So just hang on, honey. Yeah. Can you just take her out?
Okay. Wait a moment, or did she?
No,
Hold on.
no,
I'm still here. Sorry, I'm just trying to sort out an unhappy person in my kitchen.
You want something to eat?
Okay, sorry. You just have to be quiet. You can have
Stop the
a
whining, please.
So more recently,
Which bread do you want?
some members of our community who I can't confirm whether they support or oppose mandates and restrictions openly admitted on the Community Bonspiel Facebook page to organizing the event, despite it being illegal at the time of organization. So in my opinion, this is kind of a red flag, and it's an indicator that people are ready to move on. They're ready to drop restrictions and mandates and allow people to get back to normal. We need to see and hear our town representatives supporting the needs of their community members. So we're back to town council seeking support and guidance into these coming months and need to have our concerns met with a timely, effective response. I'm going to pass the mic off to Cedric here, who's going to share some insights on the mayor's letter to the premier of Yukon.
Hi there. Okay, first off, anyway, just give you a little history on me. Like I came here about 5 years ago. After being in almost every major city in Canada, this is the first place I actually came to where people were asking me if I was going to stay after I was here for a day. So needless to say, I ended up making my home, as some of you all know me anyway, for the past almost 5 years. I've met a lot of good people here, and it really bothers me to see how this town is divided by these mandates that are basically illegal against all human rights, as far as I'm concerned. There've been people have lost jobs, and myself, I have lost income because of these mandates as well. Fortunately enough, I am still working, but I have lost some income because of it. Let's see. They say I personally had a person come up to me in this community, from this community, and tell me that if I was not vaccinated and if anyone else was not vaccinated, they deserve to die. I mean, I thought that was extremely shocking to hear, especially coming from the person that did. I never in my wildest dreams growing up and living in this country all my life think that it would fall under a dictatorship like it has, and be discriminated against for not disclosing my medical information to a total stranger. My father and uncles did not fight in the World War II for this to happen. I also not going to stand by and watch this happen. That being said, we want to know what the mayor and council are doing to protect the people here in Watson Lake against the tyrannical government. And I also would like to remind you that you were elected here to represent us, the people, not the politicians in Whitehorse or Sandy Silver, the premier, or anybody else. You were elected here to address our concerns. I listened to a letter that was sent to Sandy Silver there by our mayor on the last meeting that we had. Be quite honest with you, I think the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus had more threatening letters sent to them. Not once in that letter did the mayor mention anything about getting our people back to work and the jobs that were lost because of this discriminating mandate. That would have been my first priority of asking Sandy Silver, is what are we going to do to get our people back to work? Never mind, what are we going to do to replace them? That's to me would have been my first order of business. That being said, we have a solution to put pressure on the government to end these mandates, and we really, we don't care whose toes we're stepping on. We don't care who we tick off, because it's our rights to be able to work in a free society, and it's our right not to give out our medical information to anyone, and that is right in the Charter of Rights. That being said, Tessa has the proposal there that we have for you guys. We can read it out to you. The town of Farrell has adopted this. We have spoken to the mayor there, and he basically told us that he was sick and tired of seeing their community ripped apart. So they decided to do something about it. So I'll hand it back to Tessa here, and she can explain to you exactly what happened there.
So yeah, I guess in January, the town of Farrell, the mayor and their council members signed a proclamation. And it basically states that they will further be rejecting any discrimination, segregation, or illegal violations of their citizens. So we propose that our mayor and town council follow suit and work towards regaining a sense of community that's slowly disintegrating in our town. So I'm going to read through our draft here. Maybe, Cedric, do you want to read through it?
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah,
can read it for
sorry.
you, yeah. So,
There we go.
Okay,
We're
here we
passing
are.
it back. Here it goes.
Okay, so basically, it says, whereas the current state of emergency, yeah. What is that?
Enacted.
Oh, yeah, sorry, my glasses aren't. Has resulted in the loss and rights and privilege of the citizens of Watson Lake. That in ordinary times, they are protected by our Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and Canadian constitutions. And whereas the territorial government has failed to demonstrate the validity assault of our Charter of Rights and Freedoms by using the Oakes test. And the Oakes test, in case anybody is unfamiliar with it, you can look it up online. I'll just give you the short version. The Oakes test was created by the Supreme Court of Canada in 1986. In case is Virginia versus Oakes. The test interprets Section 1 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which states that all rights are guaranteed subject only to such reasonable limits as can be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. It goes into more detail online if you'd like to look it up. Where are we got here? Okay, and oh yeah, here we are. And whereas the mayor and town of Watson Lake and council of Watson Lake recognize a sufficient proportion of citizens of Watson Lake have chosen to exercise their rights guaranteed under the British North American Act 1867. And whereas there now exists a potential for division amongst citizens of Watson Lake that will harm the long-standing goodwill of that it always prevailed within our community amongst our friends and co-workers and our family members. The Mayor and Council of Watson Lake hereby proclaim that the town of Watson Lake rejects any discrimination, segregation, illegal violation of any of our citizens or our employees or our family members that these new restrictions are causing within our community. Town of Watson Lake further proclaims that the good citizens of Watson Lake shall continue to foster goodwill towards one another, regardless of any differences of opinion or beliefs and may exist in this community. We're also open to anybody on the council or mayor that would like to interject anything into this that might be helpful as well. And like I say, that's pretty much what Farrell has done. And Farrell is a smaller community than ours. Just out of plain and simple pride, I think that we're a bigger community and we should be able to show them up a little bit. I'll pass you back to Tessa here for a second.
Yeah, thanks, Cedric. Right, so I guess given that we don't see any indications that the government is going to be easing their mandate or.
Sorry, can we
I know.
pick that up, whatever that is?
Yeah, sorry, that was not intended to happen. Given that we don't have any indications that the government's easing their vaccination requirements for workers or the vaccine passport system, we just want town council support in implementing this proclamation in our town. Yeah, and we'd like a response by Friday, March 4th if that's possible, or some kind of a discussion to happen on another level. But we're open, like Cedric said, to negotiation or meeting at another time. So yeah, we thank you for your time and your consideration today, and we hope that you take our proposal seriously.
If you have any questions, we're more than open to listen as well.
So, all right, do you want to just maybe mute if you're done? Thank you. So I guess I want to say thank you for starters for coming, and thank you so much for that presentation and all of your questions. We hear you. Having just received your draft proclamation and letter very recently, unfortunately, we've not had a chance to discuss as a full council. Therefore, we're not at liberty to provide an official response at this time. I can say, however, that I think we can all appreciate how hard COVID has been overall and the toll that it's taken on all of our community members. We emphasize, and I'm going to, we understand, and I'm going to emphasize this, the Yukon government imposed vaccine mandate is especially difficult. But we have no authority to change that other than to express our concerns, kind of like the letter we wrote to Minister Mostyn and the Premier. Unfortunately, that's all we can say right now until we've had a chance to discuss it further. We will absolutely take all of the things you have said into consideration, and we will provide an official response in writing when that happens. So please watch out for it. That's really all that I can comment right now. I wonder if Mayor Irvin has anything that he would like to add at this time.
I just want to reiterate what Lauren is saying in that it is a very difficult time and, you know, things are changing gradually across the country. I think COVID is taking a different turn. I think people are starting to realize what it is and we're graduating from it, I hope. But like Councillor Henser mentioned, the Yukon mandates are out of our control. We have expressed our concern and that's about all we could do at this point. So I would also like to thank you for taking the time to come to us again. And we don't take this lightly. It is a difficult situation. So we will definitely discuss and get back to you as soon as we can.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Sorry. Thanks, Tessa and Cedric. So we will move on now to bylaw 2201, which is the bylaw for the 2022 O&M budget. So basically, we're not making a motion tonight. This is a chance to ask any questions regarding the O&M budget that you may have as we head into third and final reading at the next meeting. Anybody?
Yeah, it's so strange. Make sure I'm looking at the right thing. Okay, yeah, it's there. Okay, so I was looking at an older one and a new one, and our revenue as well as our expenses. Oh, it's because of the transfer to capital is what it was. If I figured it out later. Sorry, the 177 at the bottom. The reason why our under the administration it went from 4,424,000 to 4,604,000.
That's correct.
Yeah, and that's where the extra money was coming from, and I was just looking at it going, whoa, how did that happen? And that right there, and then so long story short, I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Sliger. Councillor Paquette, did you have anything?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
I just have a quick one on the previous edition of the O&M budget. There was a line where we were going to borrow some monies from reserve funds to balance, I guess, the O&M. Can you, is that?
Yeah, so that
Speak
is
to that?
that is to go with your item or agenda item number 7, which is the property tax rate. So the difference was with the council wanting to adopt the new minimums for vacant property, that those funds offset the losses that we were been in the previous edition.
So we are no longer counting on monies from reserves
Exactly.
to balance. Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you. That was my only question. Mayor Irvin or Councillor Burtis, did you have anything to add?
Is there just a reason? I don't know. It could just be because of the program or how we're looking at it. Is recreational. It's just highlighted a little bit for 2020 approval budget, and same with the expense part of recreational building.
We're on the all
Department summary. It just looks highlighted on us. Is there a change in there?
Okay, I am just going back.
It's right here.
Okay, sorry.
Highlighted a little bit.
It just looks highlighted on our.
Yeah,
copy.
No, we can see that too.
Yeah, the reason it's showing different is because when council requested, they broke out into the two different lines under recreation facility and then everything else outside of the recreation center. It's highlighted because we couldn't go back and thoroughly show how that money was broke out last year. And
Okay.
reason the highlighted to show that we couldn't break it up to give you a clear picture.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so.
I don't have
Oh,
any
sorry.
questions.
Sorry. All right, thanks so much.
Oh, I remember what my question was regarding the 177. So before we were running a deficit of 40,000-ish, below 50 anyway. And then, so our revenue jumped up by 177, the exact amount that went into the transfer to capital. However, the taxes can only account for, say, under 50,000. Where did the other 120 come from?
We did some minor juggling of other expenses as we got to year end, just to clarify, we had final numbers, so we were able to clarify and balance those numbers out properly.
Okay. And with the addition of increased property tax assessments to go along with the minimums.
Yes.
We're anticipating that's gonna create what? Extra 60,000 in revenue, maybe? 40 from the increased tax, 20 from the increased assessments, perhaps?
Yeah, roughly about 19,000, 20 if you want to use a roundup number.
Okay.
Yes, approximately, yes.
Okay, if nobody has anything else to add, we will move on to, sorry, 1 second. Lost my agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Bylaw 2202, which is the bylaw for the 2022 capital budget. So same thing, we're just looking for any feedback, any questions, last minute comments before we go for third and final reading at the next meeting.
None from us.
Thanks.
That's all we made off the sale of our items is a little less than 19,000.
No, this is the carryover from what was left, because in last year's capital budget, you allowed for spending of, I believe, $18,000 or $19,000 of money. Our rough profits were $32,000 or $33,000 from, I think, $32,500 from the sale of our surplus items.
Okay,
And then last year in the 2021 budget, you allotted for the spending of 19 for the side-by-side out of those funds.
Yeah.
So this is the remainder.
okay.
So I think there were a couple changes to the capital budget since the last time we talked about it. Did you want to share those with everyone?
I can,
Cam?
your worship.
Please.
So there's some changes and one is what Councillor Slager just talked about, the rollover of the funds from the surplus equipment sale for 13,500. Also $18,950 in revenue coming from the existing landfill MOU with Delu Dena and Dees River First Nations. So that's money that in our MOU, we talk about has to be go towards capital purchases for landfill issues. So that's revenue that's rolled over in there. And then the things that were the increases to the budget are for the street lighting, because we haven't got a final amount for the lighting that we're gonna contribute to 2 Mile. So we rounded it up and said it's easier to have a higher amount in the budget than come back to council and ask for another $20,000 and have to go through 3 readings. So we bumped those numbers up. The other thing that.
Sorry, can I just interrupt 1 second? That also includes the cost of the streetlights that were on Raven Hill that were already installed, correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay, thanks,
And
sorry.
we
to
still
interrupt.
haven't been billed as of
Okay.
yet.
Okay,
The other thing that went up was a little bit on the public waste drop-off area due to the fact that costs have gone crazy with COVID, so it's come up. And then the other piece that went up in this, since we spoke, just bear with me,
Change rooms,
sorry?
change rooms.
Yes, the change rooms. We've had the change rooms out for tender for almost 8 weeks. When it closed this time, we went out, we actually went out nationwide because of the MERC system when we advertised. We only had two sets of prints pulled by contractors and only one bid submitted at close, and it was, I believe, $40,000 higher than what we originally budgeted. So that is the next thing on your thing. So that amount has been also boosted up in the capital budget. And then the other thing that I just noticed was I got confirmation that the dump truck purchase is totally accessible under gas tax. Flush truck is totally financeable under gas tax. And then we rolled over some surplus funds from the COVID restart funds that we got in 2020. Yeah, in the end of 2020.
Mhm.
And we hadn't been able to spend due to the fact that the items that we had initiated those funds for, we could not get delivery of. And still, so we've changed our priority. So we've rolled over those funds, which are $163,000 of COVID restart money we've rolled over to this year's budget from last year's budget to help alleviate some of the pressure. And that I believe are all the changes. So this year's capital budget is proposed for this year is $3,694,372. And a lot of that is contingent on funding, like the CDF funding for the Northern Lights Center purchase for the new projector. If it isn't approved, then that does not go ahead. And the rest of the money, and then there's another, under YTG, there's some other YTG contingent funding as well, but totally out of our gas tax funds, it'd be $2,030,000 out of our gas tax, which is currently, as we speak, I believe almost $9.8 million in our gas tax fund.
Can you tell us sorry if you said this already, but just for the record, how much of our own funds?
Our own funds would be the $177,000 coming from this year's O&M budget.
Okay,
And the rest would either be from the sale of equipment. Some of it is actually insurance money because we received insurance money for the old plow truck when it burnt. So there's that money that's rolled over as revenue as well into this. And then there's some money from the Northern Lights Equipment Reserve. There's money from the Environmental Reserve, which all play into their applicable spending guidelines under the reserve bylaws.
thank you, CAO Lockwood. Anything else from anyone? So we'll be looking for third and final reading on the March 22nd meeting. Okay, so we'll move on to the next item, which is the bylaw 2203, which is a bylaw to set the property tax rate for the year 2022. Now we are looking for a motion tonight for third and final reading. The reason being we need to have this bylaw passed in order to pass our O&M budget at the next meeting. Okay, so just like it's a process. So just to kind of, I'm not going to read this out again, but just to summarize the bylaw, basically the mill rate will stay the same as last year. And the changes are that the minimum tax rate for vacant residential and commercial lots are increasing from $600 to $800 for vacant residential, and increasing from $600 to $1,100 for vacant commercial. So like I said, we're looking for a motion on that this evening.
I'll make a motion to have the third reading of bylaw 22-3.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Second,
I'll second.
thank you, Mayor Urban. All in favor?
Discussion.
Oh, sorry, can we get any discussion on that? Do you have anything to say?
I just feel it should be a little bit more incremental, that's all. That's why I'm not in favor of it. I feel that it should be going up by $100 a year in residential, and I feel from the jump from 600 to 1,100 is a little much. But I understand what we're trying to accomplish in doing so. I just feel it's a pretty big, it's just a shock to the system for some people.
Okay. Is that all?
That's it.
Okay. Anyone else? Comments? All in favor?
Sorry, Councillor Hanchar, just some clarity on the residential there, Councillor Slager, like, I believe the minimum, correct me if I'm wrong, is going from 600 to 800. So the commercial empty lots are what's the drastic increase, and the urgency for housing and lots is the reasoning. So I just wanted to reiterate that.
Thank you, Mayor Urban. All in favor? Thank you.
Opposed?
Did you want to, okay, do you want that marked?
Record, yeah.
Want that record recorded? Thank you. All right. So now we're moving on to the Recplex upgrades to the change rooms. So a tender went out, we received one bid. Is that?
One submission.
One submission. So I'm just going to read a little bit to you. So the request for tenders, which was RFT 2021-05 for the town of Watson Lake Recreation Change Room upgrades, was first issued on November 22nd, 2021, with a closing date of December 16th, 2021. No bids were received at that time. RFT 2021-05 was reissued on January 24th, 2022, with a closing date of February 11th, 2022. One addendum was subsequently issued. One compliant bid was received, which was reviewed by Colliers on February 11th, 2022. The original construction budget for this project was $145,000. Following design, an updated construction cost estimate was prepared and totaled $225,000. Therefore, the bid price is approximately $25,000 over the latest estimate. However, should council wish to proceed with this project before the 2022 tourism season and can allocate additional budget, Colliers Project Leaders recommends that the town of Watson Lake award the Recreation Center Change Room Upgrades project to Arkwright Northern Limited for a total of $249,777 plus GST. So we are looking for council to approve this tender tonight so that we can get the job done this season before the tourist season starts. So again, we received only one bid from Arkwright Northern for an amount of $249,000, $777. So looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion to open it up for discussion.
Two Can we get a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
So in my mind, I'm thinking $250,000 for 2 bathrooms or 2 showers is pretty pricey. And I understand that we're taking it down to the studs, but like, what are we replacing it with? Are we like, is it being tiled? Is it like gold plated, stainless steel? Where's the astronomical cost coming from?
So Councillor Slager, it is more than 2 bathrooms. That is the change rooms with saunas in it.
Okay.
All right. And currently there's 3 showers in there, which don't meet code, and along with the washrooms do not meet code,
Along with mold.
and mold issues
Everywhere.
as well. So we're taking it right back to the stud. The new changes will allow us to comply with code for handicap access or all access, because right now they don't. And it will get rid of the water issue right now, because right now the sewer is actually leaking up, the water from the showers leaks up and comes through the tile that's currently on the floor. And it's causing further extensive damage. So we're taking it right back to the base, and then putting in 2 fully accessible showers with the new security requirements, so that they're actually segregated, so nobody can walk in through a curtain when somebody's having a shower. And the other issue is that we have the capability of actually closing off the showers when we're not open, so it's only the washrooms that are available instead of the showers as well, and the sauna. So we're putting more security in that way. And then also is changing out the fixtures to the new energy reduction, energy saving water, low flow fixtures as well.
See, now that price tag makes way more sense.
But I appreciate that comment, because it is double the original
Well,
cost. So,
and
yeah,
your
thank you.
worship, to clarify, the original budget we were given was by a local contractor who went in and looked at it and said he could do the project for this amount of money, but that wasn't taking in consider that he isn't an architect that knows exact specs on how much space is needed for wheelchair access and counter access. He was just going in and saying what he could fix the existing for.
And I think at that time you also said that we weren't aware of the extent of the mold situation.
Exactly. We didn't know about the damage that was the leak
Understood.
potential.
I'm in favor.
Okay, any more comments? Mayor Irvin or Councillor Burdess?
It's just those 2 bathrooms there, but that have the saunas in them. But
Yes,
the
that's
freehand
right.
entrance is pretty open, so.
Yeah.
And that's the ones that the tourism
Yes.
pretty much uses.
And
Thank you. Sorry, CAO Lockwood. Thank you for the clarification. Where's the extra funds coming from?
I believe, your worship, I had it highlighted in the capital budget there, but I will go back to it.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. Sorry, I just had closed mine, so I'm gonna go back to it. Of course, it's got open small. Energy upgrades, shower upgrades. Actually, it comes under gas tax.
Okay,
I was able to lobby. Yeah, I was able to lobby for that. That's the point I missed in the changes. I lobbied and was able to get gas tax for the building upgrades, because it is used for tourism and recreation. And also for the upgrades to the Wylake Trail head, which is the extra money in there for the $20,000, which is the signage and stuff, and the flags at the entrance coming at the admin building going to the Wylake Trail.
awesome. Okay. I didn't actually hear the motion from Councillor Slager.
Make a motion to approve the contract to Arkwright Northern for the amount of, I don't have it, to $249,777 plus GST in the amount of $12,488.85.
Okay,
And Councillor Paquette second that.
I will second that.
Okay, if no one has any further comments, all in favor?
aye.
Great, thank you. CAO report. CAO Lockwood.
Yes. So, thank you, everyone. So I do have remarkable news. As of Thursday, while I was on holidays, I came back in and had a meeting, and I agreed to substantial completion on the new Fire Hall Public Works building.
Woo-hoo.
Nice.
Light years. There was some caveats on it yet. We had a list of items that had to be addressed before we can actually start moving in. So they have to move all the snow from the property, because of the fact that we can't access the new building to take use. And that says right in the contract that it must be fully accessible to us. There's some issues with some doors yet, so I received, just prior to the meeting, I received an email saying that Johnson Builders will have 2 carpenters on site on February 7th and 8th to look after the last of the major outstanding things that we had put in our request that they needed to deal with. So, but it's a remarkable milestone because we've been fighting this for a long time. July was a long time ago. Contract expired in end of October, and it's been extended and extended. And we were down to legal actions being addressed. So, like I said, it's a milestone for that. So we've had a few issues with water main breaks this last go. We did a dig on Thursday and then another dig on Saturday, both on Francis Avenue. So it just shows the state and the age of our infrastructure and that we need to be able to address it. So we are moving forward with those types of repairs.
Sorry, did you say Maine?
Water, yeah, well, they were, both of them broke on services on our side of the curb stops. So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. So we do, that hasn't corrected the issue with our consumption right now. Our water consumption is almost at our permit level. So we do have some major leaks somewhere and we haven't been able to locate them and they haven't come to surface. So we've been looking at ways of trying to narrow down that. So I have my staff currently right now researching leak detection equipment because we've been trying to, out of last year's capital budget for water line repairs, I believe we have still $35,000 roughly that's sitting in that capital line that we haven't been able to spend yet. So what my staff has been researching under leak detection equipment is probably about $33,000. And I believe there's probably going to be an admin report coming to council looking to change the spending from fire hydrants and piping that we haven't been able to actually purchase due to COVID to the leak detection equipment to fix the water line repairs, which I think is more prudent because if we start going over our consumption limits, that puts us in violation of our permit. And then the other issue is the fact that we've got water going to ground somewhere that's going to cause us thousands of dollars to fix. So I just wanted to mention that to council because it's something that I'm going to be bringing forward probably at the next meeting in an admin report because, you know, we're hemorrhaging water and every liter of water that we're losing is
1 liter of water that we treated.
But we've traded it and it's cost us power. So, and we got lucky not this last weekend, the weekend before, the town is served by 2 water wells and one of our wells went down on Friday night. We were lucky they were able to restart it, but that's part of the money in the capital budget this year is the rebuilding of those 2 water supply wells. So it was that little warning shot across the bow that we need to do something. So I'm glad that's in the capital budget. And it was just a hard reminder that we could have been in a really bad spot about spending emergency money in the wintertime trying to get the well back up and running. Because we could run probably 4 days off the reservoir and with one well supplying. But when we're hemorrhaging water into the ground as well, that is also another issue that, you know, doesn't help our situation. The other thing, snow removal. As you know, the staff has been thoroughly busy. That extra 4 to 6 inches we got on the weekend didn't help matters any. We've been hauling off of almost every street in town. So our budget's going to take a real hit this year, but it's hard to forecast that. It's that up and down, and we're going to try and manage that internally in our current budget. So hopefully I don't have to do like Whitehorse and come back to council and ask for more money for snow removal, but I think we can manage it internally. So we'll see,
Well, That's
because,
good to hear.
October might come around, or next fall might come around, we might not get snow till December. So we might not have to, I know, it's a pipe dream, but, hopefully it's at ebb and flow and everything works out, so. But we've been slammed, hauling snow everywhere, and now we're getting into the time of the year where we're into March, so we're gonna start peeling streets, and then we have to put that snow somewhere as well, right? So it's a problem that keeps adding up. And then I also did the staffing process that I told you for the bylaw position. The selected candidate rejected the position. And so now I'm back to square one, trying to come up with solutions on how to staff that position. So I'm working towards that, because I
Can't find anyone local?
nobody local that's qualified that wants to do their job so far.
Oh, is there, okay, open forum, sorry.
Yeah, if we can save it till the end.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
So those are just where we're at. Procurement is on the way, so excuse me, a lot of it's been writing proposals to get funding to support the capital budget. So that's where we're at currently.
Awesome.
Oh, and the other thing that's going on this week is the audit is on. So the auditors, BDO is working on our audit, and I have a meeting, Shannon and I have a meeting with them on Friday to have an update as to this, where we stand at the end of it. So
Excellent.
that's it. And the rest is for open forum.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving on to council strategic plan. We have with us in the gallery our consultant from Elevator Yukon, Jordan Stackhouse, who's here to present our council strategic plan that he is helping us to work towards. Hi, Jordan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'll get into what this is about, but certainly like a continuation of the strategic planning work that we've been doing over the last couple of months. What you guys have in your package today, I'll just explain a little bit about that document, is not the strategic plan, but is essentially just the data that we collected through the conversations that we had over our 3 or 4 meetings, kind of went into the meat grinder, and this was what was kind of spit out on the other end. And so what we're looking for today is just to check in with council to kind of review, kind of not really go line by line at all to see what's in there, but just to ensure that we're kind of headed in the right direction with this stuff. Cam and I had a meeting today, and he brought up some good points. So you'll notice the column in the far right there on that table I have on page like 3 or 4, I think. Do you guys want me to flash it up on the screen? Is that easier? Here.
Sure, that'll be
Sure,
great.
I'll put it for screen share for you.
I think I can do it, Cam. It looks
I guess you can. There you go.
There you go, man. Okay, cool. So I just want you to ignore something. I want you to ignore this priority thing, and I'll tell you why. And it was just an oversight on my part when we get to it. So I think we're getting there, guys. Really good notes, particularly from Councillor Paquette. Other councillors might need some work, not saying any names, but it was really insightful, and it was just really fun, after having had that conversation with you guys, just to kind of read through those notes as well. And so I'll just remind you guys, I know you've been up to a lot here in the few weeks that it's been since we've thought about this. So I'll just give you a kind of reminder of what we talked about, where we're trying to head with this. And from council, I'm just looking are we headed in the right direction? I'm going to suggest something for a next step in the process, and just let me know if that sounds good, just based on what you feel we have left. And then, other than that, we're on track to wrap up this work in not too long. So I think all in all, going pretty good. So, let's just go through this report page by page. I'm on page 0, which is just the letter to Cam here. So basically here it just says we had a number of sessions We talked about like, we started off talking about like council procedures, policies, code of conduct, responsibilities, all the kind of like nuts and bolts, like procedural stuff. And then our last session in January, we had about like a full day on strategic planning, and we decided to, you guys decided on Cam and I's recommendation to base your strategic planning around the implementation of your guys' official community plan, which I thought was great. You guys have a brand new, fresh official community plan with lots of great actions in there for consideration. And so we essentially talked through all those. There's something like 32 or 30, or like there's 39 actions in the OCP, and we landed on something like 30-ish for the actual strategic plan. And this is just like a first pass. So how it's categorized here in my report to you guys is just kind of the basic stuff, like how we approached it, what kind of themes, which of course are in line, are just the themes from the official community plan, but it's slightly amended just to kind of have less categories. The prioritization piece, which we're gonna talk about later, I'm just gonna ask you to put out of your mind for a second, just how you read that data. And then we're gonna look at like how many operational items there is versus council items, kind of where those all fall in the spectrum, right? Because we're kind of planning over 1 to 5 years, say, but really trying to get like the bulk of what you guys are trying to do done in your term. So, you know, just considering like, you know, all coming out in the wash is something like 30 items, 3 years, you know, it can get pretty gnarly. You know, and just with the understanding that, you know, new stuff is obviously going to come up as well. So we'll look at that, we'll look at the thematic area, and then I just have a couple points for discussion, and I think that should be it for me. And we'll determine if we need another meeting, if we have good direction here, that kind of thing, and we'll move forward. So is there any questions at this point before I just take you guys through that?
Any questions? None for me.
Great.
I just wanted
It's
to
all
say
pretty-
I just
pretty
wanted to say
straightforward.
thank you for all your work, Mr. Stackhouse. And I did see some things in there that I would like to bring back as notes. Apologies, I haven't read it very thoroughly, but I will, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. But just thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Urban. And really, guys, this is just like this went through the meat grinder. This is what came out. This is just like a touch point to say, hey, like this is what came out. You know what I mean? And it's gonna really closely align to, of course, your guys' official community plan, which you guys will be familiar with as well. So just going back to when we started this process, talking a lot about what it is municipal government was going to do, you know, what the possibilities of what you guys could do within your roles as counselors, and responsibilities that come along with that too. We looked at all the wonderful policies that you guys have at the town of Watson Lake there, and all the responsibilities you're beholden to, all that kind of good stuff. We talked about the political administrative interface, so how we work with one another for success, respectfully, you know, kind of trying to stay in each other's lane. Try to stay in our own lane for the benefit of the community, conflict of interest, all that kind of stuff. And I just, you know, we'll leave that off to the side because we're talking about strategic planning, but I just want to say like all that discussion came before our strategic planning session. So it was like a good bit of context, I think, for council, especially being like a new council, just having to review all that stuff. So getting right into the initial kind of findings here from our strategic planning session. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 thematic areas. And these will align with your OCP, of course, but they'll be a bit different because we've combined some like areas just to make it a little bit less, a little bit cleaner, I guess. So you can read those for yourself, 7 different areas. Prioritization, we'll talk about this afterwards. So I think that's work, as Cam suggested, we probably still need to do here. Just interpreting the data, so just some like how you read this thing, because it's all full like acronyms and stuff like that. So you know, whatever, it's there. So let's get like right into it, the meat of this, which is, you know, what actually like came out of that. So I think, like as Mayor Urban says, like there's probably some more discussion that needs to take place here. So I think like what we did at that strategic planning session was we kind of captured everything that was in the official community plan. we kind of put what we knew to those actions, like, okay, like we're already doing this, or like, yes, this is like a top priority, or you know what, like this was budgeted last year, but we didn't do it, whatever. So some of that, like it spit out like operational items, and my little description just says like here, like once we eventually pass the strategic plan, like once we have some operational items included in there, you know, whatever those are, and this might not be the final list, you know, like those will be the ones that administration will have essentially like a direction to go ahead and get done. These will come back to council at different things or different times for various things, but you know, like what's the first one here? It's bringing forward options for greater enforcement of development agreements, right? So Cam and his staff are not going to need to come back to council again to be like, okay, double checking on this, like we're good. The next time you're going to see these operational items is when they come back to council for discussion. So you guys follow me on that?
Yeah.
There's a big focus here. I'll just say like what came out in the wash is on housing, beautification, heritage, and parks. Of course, that includes housing and lands, right? Like a big focus for the town of Watson Lake right now. So there's a lot of potential actions around that. And I'm not going to go through this in detail right now because we'll have like a 4-hour conversation. We're just not ready to have that tonight, I don't think. But it is all in there and you guys can read it, and it's okay if you haven't read it yet, but just ignoring the very right-hand column, the priority there, you can kind of see like, okay, like this is the thematic area, the OCP column, like that's the actual action in the OCP it relates back to. This is what council kind of decided on, the action. So, you know, in the OCP, it might say something like, you guys, like development super important. We took those like aspirational statements and said, okay, what do we actually want to do with those, right? And so we said development agreements, we want to see those get better in some way. So, you know, Cam's going to get that direction to bring you guys forward options for that. So really like operationalizing some of those, I would say like aspirational statements in the official community plan, the real policy statements. Some of those were really tangible and we were able to kind of like sift through those really quickly and filter those out. And those are here for you guys. And I'll get into the number of each and how that's a problem after I'm done here, but I'll just go through this first. So, and then we get into the council, what I call like council items, but just the kind of like more, these might be like leadership items, communication items, like policy items, strategic items that you just don't quite know what to do with yet. Some you do, right, but are clearly like a council thing, like it's not an operational thing. Here I can. So, and again, just like our little like table here where it relates back to the OCP, what's like the general theme that this action is under. Some of it's really clear, like we want to send LFN a letter about working together on land development. We want to be really clear about that. Some of it's a lot more nebulous, like talking about the town's role in affordable housing. But, you know, once we kind of once you guys land on these and you guys incorporate these into your strategic plan. So one, every action that you guys take that's in this plan is going to be working towards the implementation of your official community plan, which is just like, it's so great because that's what your community just told you they want you to work on, right? So I even noted the couple that was advocating for the restrictions today, right? Like not representative necessarily, like you need to represent us and like this and that. And like, that plan has had so much like public feedback. I think you guys can just have confidence in the official community plan that, you know, that is really like, for those who chose to participate, that is really reflective of like what they're asking for right now because it's so current. And so really like, you know, everything we're doing in here, you council, like, as you know, as a council, it's getting you closer towards those goals, right? Of it's more housing, like better like integration with LFN and relationships or whatever it might be, you know, all these actions are getting you there. And it's clarity, right? So Cam understands like, okay, like, you know, obviously this isn't done, right? But like, you know, if we looked at something that was just like in the future, you know, Cam might be able to just look at this one day when he has some free time. Yeah. Might not have much free time and, you know, but just say like, okay, like I know what's coming up, right? Like I know some things are coming at me. You know, there's some expectations from council that, you know, like, you know, in 2023, like we wanted, you know, we really needed some action on the cemetery or whatever it is, right? So that's the main thing. And just like, I guess for council's benefit, you know, when we talk about performance management, I guess, with the CAO in your case, like these things are really great to have kind of crystal clear, tangible outcomes, and that, you know, whether you guys do it or not, you know, is a lot of that's out of your control, right? But what is in your control is making progress towards these different things, right? And we can definitely take action on all these different things. And I think, you know, whether you get a new cultural center or it doesn't happen, that's probably out of your control, right? But there's a lot of stuff that is in your control. And so when we talk about like, how do we measure performance when it comes to the CAO and that kind of thing, like, well, did you make progress to what we asked you to do in our strategic plan, right? It's pretty straightforward. So just another thing as well. So I know that's a lot to take in, and I know you guys just dealt with a lot. So I don't want to like kind of like bombard you. But all this is to say, here's how it kind of came out. If we looked at it just on like a time frame. So if we said this plan is like 1 to 5 years, but we're trying to kind of do most of the stuff within our term of like 3 years, this is kind of what it looks like. There's 33 strategic actions between operational and council. Super front loaded, like about 50% of them. We said, you know, we'd like to see that happen this year. And we're already at March. And then as we go on, less and less. So I think I want to go back. I'll just check. Is there, and I'm going fast and everything, is there any questions at this point? Because I just want to talk about prioritization. I'll just check if that's kind of making sense generally so far.
Makes sense. There's obviously a lot of information, and it really just shows how much work we have to do. Obviously,
this is like an OCP in like 3 pages.
Oh yeah,
right?
it's
So
a lot. But I don't
yeah.
really have any questions at this time. Assuming that we'll hopefully get to chat with you about it later.
Yeah. So I'll just thank you, Mayor Hench or Deputy Mayor. I'll just continue on then. So Cam pointed out today, like I met with him and Cam had the chance to read this. And what I had tried to do here, I'll just go back to the prioritization thing. We briefly talked about this in our strategic planning sessions where, you know, we could kind of like generally break up like these actions into 3 broad categories. Priority 1 being like health and safety related things, right? You know, that are going to protect people in our community. And those kind of being like the most important, not the most important maybe in a strategic context, but actually in like a tangible, like keep me alive context. So, you know, there are things that just need funding, right? Like that we can't, like core services for lack of a better term, right? And then we get into priority 2 things, which is also a big responsibility for the community, which is land development, right? So when we say that's a priority 2, so, and this is really like a budgeting tool. It's like a filter, a budget filter for you guys to say like, okay, like, you know, this action really important, but you know, if it's, you know, an economic development thing, we don't have the money, like, unfortunately it's got to wait, right? Because it's kind of like a priority 3 thing, you know, like if that makes sense to you. But, you know, where like Cam was saying, we got to just spend like 200 grand on the, you know, the sewer because we had to do 2 digs this weekend, like that's kind of a priority 1, you know, like it just is, you know what I mean? So, but I want to leave that to the side because Cam brought up a good point. So that's what I tried to do there. And I think it just kind of confused things because I think what we still, the next step of this, guys, what I see is really like doing that prioritization piece. So I think revisiting all these actions and kind of saying like, okay, actually this one's the most important, and building consensus among council about what those are. Ideally what we're landing at is like 2 or 3 or 4 really important things like per year, you know, that are just like core strategic, like initiatives because really like that's about the capacity of the town of Watson Lake to kind of manage that stuff, because it all comes along with, as I say in my report, it all comes along with more work. It's not just like we snap our fingers and, you know, we have lots in the ground or whatever. There's tons of work that goes into that. And then I don't want to say the strategic stuff is necessarily on top of the day-to-day stuff, but it is like adjacent to it, right? So it's almost like you're having to switch focus, you know, if you're the CEO, from like dealing with whatever crisis of the day is to being like, okay, like, you know, how are we going to like grow this community in the long term, right? So, yeah, there's a lot in there. And so I think as a council, I would suggest the next step here is to have a further discussion on this. Really, you know, kind of get into where these landed as like tangible actions for the town to take, and where you guys want to see those allocated in terms of resources and priorities. Because Cam kind of brought a light to my eye and he said, well, you know, I've been going through this and this isn't a priority one. He's saying this, like, he doesn't see it as a priority 1, 2, 3. And I was like, no, it's this. And he's like, well, that just confuses the whole thing. And I was like, okay, fair enough, but you guys already have your packages. So that's where I'm going to suggest we go next is a prioritization session. And I think there's a couple ways we can do that. And then I'll kick it to council for discussion. You know, I can develop a Google form or something like that and distribute that to council, and we can have you guys prioritize this individually, and I can kind of compile a report for you guys, and we can see where we come out in the wash. If we're close, then maybe we don't need a lot more discussion. Or I think the alternative is like I come back down to Watson Lake, and we have another 3 or 4 hour session on this and just work our way through it. And I'm pretty sure that option would probably get us to a resolution, you know, during that day. And then if we did kind of option A, which was like sending out a Google form and getting that feedback and then coming back to another future council meeting, that's totally fine too. It just might take a little bit longer, but I know council likes options, so I thought I'd just give it to you. And with that, Deputy Mayor, I'll just pass the floor back to you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jordan, for all of that. Certainly a lot of information in there. I personally am in favor of a in-person meeting, but I don't know how the rest of council's feeling. I think it's just a little bit more effective. Like you said, get things done a lot faster when we just like crush it in one session. Councilor Slager looks like he's pondering something.
Just let's digest it a little bit first. And I was just looking and I was actually curious how the priorities were established, because there's things that I was looking at and recalling thinking to myself, this is not
So we need
immediate, and yet it seems it made it to the immediate side. So I'm like, did I just get it voted?
So I
Or
think that's why he said to ignore that and call him for now, and we will get together and hopefully refine everything at the next session.
I think it was trying to be helpful, and it wasn't really, Councilor Slager, so apologize. Yeah.
Mayor Irvin, Councilor Burgess, how do you feel about in-person meeting versus online form of some sort?
I'd definitely be in favor of a get together. I think it'll, like you said, hammer it out, get it done. And in person is always a bit more, I don't know, just works better.
I am totally agree with that too. So.
Okay, sounds good. So what timeline are you thinking, Jordan?
So I'll work with Cam to figure out a timeline. He may be better to answer that question, but I'm certainly kind of available, you know, generally available, just depending on schedule. So I want to get it done as soon as possible for you guys. I think once we have this next session and we build consensus on the priorities, that, you know, the next time I'll be able to present to you guys will be like the draft report, will be the draft strategy, and you guys will kind of have that in your hands. We should be pretty close to getting that right at that point, I think.
Okay, that sounds great. So we'll let you communicate with Cam on that then, and let us know when's the best date, or give us some options or whatnot. All right, so if that's all, thank you very much, Jordan, for joining us tonight, and hopefully talk to you soon.
Yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you. Bye.
So the last thing on the agenda tonight is the Recreation Advisory Committee funding minutes. I was hoping that Councillor Slager would fill us in on that.
Okay. So there was a pot of money left over. And long story short, we approved both the Outdoor Bonspiel and the Liard Golf Club for their asks. The Liard Golf Club Association did receive more than 4,000, actually double. We basically tried to spend all of our money rather than give it back to the Lotteries Yukon, and we still did not accomplish that goal of spending all of our money. So we have to give some back even, which is unfortunate, but it's not a lot. On the plus side, our golf course gets an upgrade. Hopefully, if they can find. There's some issues about whether or not we can get the money spent in time. We're looking for getting a quote versus coming back with cash in hand, which is why this getting approved tonight is so important. So we can, write them a check so they can go and spend it before a certain timeline transpires. And so that's kind of the background there. But just to give you a quick little update. The Curling Bonspiel applied for $1,513.45 and was approved. And that was for things like paint and stuff for the ice to make that happen. The Liard Golf Club, their Cushman end broke down. So their service vehicle plus 2 golf carts, because their golf carts also were on their last legs. So this will help them out. The other thing to mention is, yes, they were approved for more than what was available. So the Liard Golf Association goes into next year's funding pot knowing that they are the last to the trough, so to speak, because they got pretty much double funding this year. That the only way they'd be considered for any sort of funding next year is if there was funds left over that we were again trying desperately to get rid of rather than give it back. So that being said, that's why the amount exceeds $4,000. And according to the bylaw, they can go more like we did. Even the Ninja Fund, they applied for 4,000. I think we gave them 4,700 and something to cover, just because we had the money to spend. So that's the nuts and bolts of it. Any questions? Oh, we need a motion.
So we're looking for a motion to accept the recommendation from the Recreation Advisory Committee to award the funding.
The motion to, how did you put that, Laura?
To accept the recommendation from the Recreation Advisory Committee to award the funding.
To award the
Lotteries funding.
Perfect.
A second.
Okay.
Discussion. Questions.
I do like the fact that you're trying to keep the money in the community, which is what you had written here. So I do like that for sure. Yeah.
Christopher.
Mayor Irvin, did you have a comment?
No, I don't actually.
Okay.
It's great.
Thank you. All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that concludes everything on the agenda for this evening, other than Councillor Open Forum and Gallery Open Forum. So we'll go ahead with Councillor Open Forum. If anyone has anything they'd like to share.
Do you think bleeders are responsible for our mass, or it is actually a break somewhere that's just not bubbling?
Due to the volume, and that'll be in the admin report, Councillor Slager, then the volume is astronomical over.
So it wouldn't be just someone.
It's not someone running a bleeder. If they're running a bleeder, they're running a fire hose.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, no,
Can our pumps keep up?
we are keeping up, but unfortunately, under our water license, we only are allowed so much water from our aquifer,
Yeah.
and we're right on the edge of that right now.
So what's the timeline to get that equipment that you were talking about too?
We can, if council agrees for me to make that purchase, we can have I think I'll have to confirm what my staff has found, but it's weird in the world, I send my staff out looking for 3 quotes, so we have comparables or, and then I said, maybe we need to go to an RFP for it. And so they start phoning all these companies. Well, they all come back to one distributor for that equipment.
Oh,
So it doesn't matter who you phone, you come back to the same guys. And if you go through somebody else, like if you, let's use a home hardware if you reached out to them, they're gonna go to the same company and then put their markup on it. So there's one provider of that. And then we had actually a webinar from another company based out of the States, and it's really neat technology. It's satellite technology, and they can actually do satellite imaging of Watson Lake and tell us high probability areas within so many meters where there's a water leak. But a lot of cities like Calgary and Hamilton and them are using this technology. But when you're dealing with those size of cities, narrowing it down is huge. But I don't think, and they're gonna do another presentation, but we went back with some more questions, like how narrow it down can they do it? If they're saying that, well.
It's in Watson Lake.
The leak is somewhere on 8th Street. Well, that's no help to us, right? So, and the neat thing was, and I didn't know that, but with the technology out there, they can tell the difference in between treated water and natural groundwater. I'm still trying to grip that one, how a satellite can do imaging to tell the difference, but they say that treated water has a different chemical concentration and it shows up different on imaging.
Wow.
So it's really neat to see, but you know, and that technology isn't cheap, but if it saves us, you know, $50,000 of treatment compared to it, but that's not the stuff we're looking at. We're looking at this actual leak detection equipment where they go down the road. Your worship.
So if there's, so let's say it's going to be a while before we can get that, or there's, sorry to hijack your thing. Is there any other way to figure it out other than just like waiting to see?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
wait and see game without equipment. And it might never come to the surface. If it's in an area of porous gravel, it goes straight down.
Did
Do
you?
they zone it off
Well, we can't zone it off
until the summer?
until the summertime. So.
Yeah.
What was the increase in water, Kim? Like if we're that much closer to our limit, how much was it in previous years? Like what are we talking about?
On an average year, we're running on an average day. I'm trying to remember the numbers because they're massive. I think we're like 100 cubic meters a day, and right now we're at 115 cubic meters a day.
The reason I asked is it worth, like, can we get an increase to our water usage, or is that based on groundwater measurements?
It's based on, they look at our aquifer, and that's all part of our water license that we have to go back and apply for, and then we have to justify that we're doing everything in our power, because we have to account for how much water we're producing and how much water we're discharging into the lagoon. And, you know, there is losses in that, you know, and they know that, but there's a percentage they base it on, and our percentage numbers are so askew right now. Our production numbers are really high, and what we're putting out at the lagoon is low. So that's why we know there's a loss. If they were close, like within that 10% or whatever the window is, it's not an issue because, you know, that's just normal loss. But so that's the reason that
What's the maximum?
we're 115 cubes is our limit per day.
Oh, so we're like,
And we're
there.
like at 114 something.
okay.
Thanks, Kim.
And we still don't have approved our final funding for the infrastructure to start, correct?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, remember I reported on that. We have, our $11 million of our ISIP funding was approved, and the tender documents went out for design, and we have our startup meeting scheduled for next Tuesday with the design team, and we've already prioritized some areas like no, not Stikine. Stikine was on the list. Not Simpson, Tintina. Sorry, Tintina is one of the high ones because we are dealing with an insurance claim right now for sewer backup. sewer backed up into a residence based on the main freezing on that stretch. We've been steaming on that stretch numerous times this winter already, but that's a high priority area. That's an area that we steam every winter because of the condition of the pipe. So those areas, because now that we're dealing with an insurance claim, it's a $5,000 deductible for us, right? So.
Just on the topic of water, I just thought of this while you were talking about the thing on Francis Avenue.
Yeah.
So given the fact that you had those two kind of fairly major things in one day this weekend, does that spell disaster for our hopeful extension there, like the infrastructure there?
No,
Because that's going to add a lot of.
Yeah, well, what the breaks were this weekend were services going from the main to houses.
Mhm.
But the breaks were on our side. And unfortunately, one of them was one of the new Drury duplexes. And part of the issue there is the fact that those houses haven't been completed. So the heat traces there's nothing to hook the heat traces up in the houses because the water's never been turned on. But we had to do the connections. We did the connections 2 years ago. So that was one of them. One of them was another one that the heat trace didn't work, but the break was on our side of the curb stop. So it was our issue. And once we get down to the Francis Avenue extension, all that is going to be all new infrastructure. So.
Cool.
That answer your question?
Thanks. Yeah, I was just curious because, obviously if it's in that area, theoretically, a lot of that stuff went in around the same time. So I just thought, if they're hopefully, when they get that extension open, they don't decide that all that stuff needs to be replaced because that's obviously going to drive that cost way up. So
And part of the infrastructure plan upgrades is that we're going to do the curb stop replacement. So we will, because all our curb stops are 30 years old or 40 or older. So part of that being the ground's going to be dug up anyways, and they're connecting to the mains. We're going to replace the curb stops as we go as well.
Makes sense.
for in-ground infrastructure projects.
Yes.
Perfect. Anyone else? Counselors, Mayor? No?
Do the water.
Sorry, go ahead.
The bylaw position. So are there bylaw officers in other municipalities?
Yes, Whitehorse and Dawson.
Okay, so is there any capacity then, if we were to hire somebody potentially locally and then mentor them?
That is something that we've been looking at because I'm actually in talks with somebody that just retired from Whitehorse bylaw department who might be interested in contracting with us to do training or mentorship. So it's something we're working on, but everything's on the table right now. All the options are out there.
Just thinking of keeping it local, especially with housing issues. I know we do have the townhouse, but that's always an issue, right? Bringing people in.
Right, is that all?
And then your audits. So how do you guys have your audits done? Do they do them every year?
Every year it's mandatory. It's a
Okay.
regulation and municipal act. And then there will be a report that comes back to council. The auditors actually present their findings to council.
So that they make recommendations
Yes.
for us? Okay. Nice, good.
Okay, so we'll move on. Gallery open forum. I cannot read that list, so tell me who's in there.
You have Janice Carlson and Leela Bruce.
All right, so we'll just go through the list. Janice, start with you. Do you have any comments for gallery open forum? There's a chat in the chat box.
Is there? Oh, sorry.
Just saying,
Yeah, I missed
by the
that. Yeah, that's probably Janice. I was right. Nothing from Janice.
Okay, thank you, Janice. And Leela, do you have any comments?
Hi, yeah, I just had a couple comments, mostly about the rec center. I did notice there's some leaking in the tourism area. It was leaking the last time there was some sunshine out there. I did mention it to Corrine, but it'd be nice if we can keep on top of that. There is nothing keeping the leaks from hitting some of the displays. Other than that, though, well done on the washrooms. I'm really looking forward to having those, up and useful and updated. well done.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Leila. I can see Cam.
I just
taking notes
wanted
here.
to comment, Leila, we did have the roof shoveled off and we are dealing with two different roofing companies to try and come up with solutions, but the problem with, there's been so much snow now, it's caused issues, hence the reason we just spent, I don't know, if it was $10,000 or $13,000 having the roof cleaned off, so,
Tough year, that's for sure.
yes, it is.
Great. Is that all we have in the gallery?
We have front desk, which would be Kareem at the rec center.
Corinne, front desk. Any comments?
I would
Take
say.
that as a no.
I have a question for Chris before we take off, but it's like not council related.
Okay,
It's just on-
sure. So we don't have anything for in camera.
Maybe, oh, sorry, Mike
Sorry.
was also on there from community services.
Oh, sorry, Mike Kraus from Community Services. Did you have anything that you wanted to say?
Hi there, nothing for me. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, thank you for coming.
But Mike, being Mike's on there, that brings me up to Mike wants, there's a possibility of Mike coming down for the next meeting to meet with you guys in person and go over any concerns in person that you guys have with YG issues. And so that invitation's out there, and if council is in favor of that, then I will send an email to Mike's boss to get travel authorization done.
So are you talking our next meeting for March 22nd?
Yes,
I mean, that sounds great to me.
Why not?
and I see the worship's got thumbs up, so.
All right,
Okay,
great.
thank you.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Great, thank you.
All right, so
Motion to adjourn.
thank you, Councillor Slager.
Right, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette. Good night, everyone. Thank
Hold on,
you.
Chris.
Councillor Irwin, if you can, or Mayor Irwin, if